Hello, everyone. We are back with the RTV radio show. I kind of missed you guys. I hope y'all missed us. We're here, Brother Nance and I. We have a special guest. But before
Amazing,
I say it again,
amazing guest.
we have an amazing guest. But before I come and introduce our guest for today, I wanted to just say thank you all for your love and support. We have probably haven't been on almost a month, a few weeks. I have been sick, and I thank you all for your love and prayers. I think, Brother Nance have just been holding it down. He's like, sis, we're going to let you rest, but you're going to do next week. So just thank you for, pushing. We push one another. That's what the village is all about. I had a restful time and coming back with something powerful. As you all know, we're making sure that our village, our community is aware of all the resources and the empowerment that is needed to move us forward. So our special guest for today, I'm going to go right into it because I think it's just going to be, I'm hoping we don't go over just how important it is. We're going to be talking about Baltimore's tax sale. And our special guest is the phenomenal. Is that better, Brother Nance?
I love phenomenal.
The phenomenal.
The goddess. You say the goddess of the blight Baltimore.
Yes. Phenomenal Nneka.
Yes.
Nneka N'namdi. And she's from Fight, Blight, Be More. Again, we're going to be talking about her organization, what they're doing in the community, as well as this tax sale that has an upcoming deadline that is detrimental to our community. So thank you so much, Nneka, for being our special guest on the RTV radio show. And this is through the Radio on Fire broadcast. So please, if you see this on your page or on YouTube or streaming live, please share this because we want to get as many people to get this information. So thank you, Nneka.
Shout out to my producer, Diamond K. You know what I mean?
Yeah, shout out.
Shout out to Diamond K.
I'm giving more of a shout out later. So Nneka, thank you so much for coming in. Could you just, you can give a formal introduction of yourself and what you do and about Fight Blight?
Sure. So, thank you for having me. Fight Blight Be More is a social, environmental, and economic justice initiative aimed at remediating blight, led by the village and informed by the data. We do a number of things. Primarily, we're here to teach the village what blight is, how it came into being, how it impacts us, but most importantly, to really bring forward and support our own vision-led and own blight remediation projects. And
I love it.
In that vein, we're just here to support what's all the dope stuff that's, already going on. We have the solutions. It's a matter of being able to apply them and being able to kind of believe in ourselves in spite of much of what we see in terms of narrative. It's about us learning to apply our power and not the power of capital because that in and of itself has some problems. If we really look, we were the first capital in capitalism. But to apply the power of currency and commerce, which we have been doing, at home in Africa for 9,500 years, before the Europeans ever, left out of Europe, or before they came in contact with the Moors in Spain and Portugal. But really learning to connect with our own power. That is how we connect to each other. That is working collaboratively and cooperatively, not competitively.
Awesome. And it's a powerful name. So I
got a question.
See, there you go. We had this.
I got a question.
Go ahead. I'm gonna let him go because he's excited.
No, so I do have a question. So what made you, get into the work of Fight Blight Baltimore? Because the only reason why I asked that question is because I've seen the space that you have. I forgot the name of the street, but what made you really dive deep into this part of, because you got people fighting violence, you got people fighting food apartheid, what made you hone in on this important piece, which is access to ownership? So what made you want to zone in on that, especially as a Black woman? Because that's you're a Black woman in that space.
Sure. So really it started initially, now next May will be 5 years ago, I witnessed a couple of children playing on Fremont Avenue on my way home, and they were just riding their bikes, doing what kids do down the street, but there was a demolition site there. But the demolition site didn't have any gate. It didn't have any signs that would indicate to the children, hey, that, you know, this area is unsafe. And so that had me start thinking about, well, what does safe demolition look like? And then that became, why are these properties being demolished? And that became, why were they in such bad condition? Why were they vacant? That became, why do we have so much vacancy?
Right.
You know, that became, how was development really done? And so, you know, one kind of pulling the thread all the way through. And the truth is, the land is key to our overall health and well-being, whether it's a house, whether it's a store, you know, a storefront, whether it's farmland, whether it's industrial, you know, being used for industrial purposes. You know, the land is our mother. And so we have to be, you know, engaging with our mother in the appropriate and proper way, not necessarily fighting each other over it. So that was kind of how, you know, I came into the work.
So once you got into the work, you know what I mean, was you like once you got into the work, were you like mind blown at like the amount of BS and bureaucracy that goes on with, you know, because I follow you online. So I see, you know, the things that you've been dealing with over the last few years, even for a little small piece of land that you own, that the city was trying to like be on some old crazy stuff for, like, you know what I mean? So, you know, I wanted to ask that question because a lot of times people don't feel like they have rights when we do, you know what I mean? But a lot of people don't know how to exercise them.
Right. So yeah, there's definitely levels of bureaucracy that are mind-blowing, and you know, every day I find out something new. You know, even today, I was looking at an email that was sent to me that was a screenshot, right, of Baltimore City's tax, you know, their tax property record. And I'm like, what in the COBOL like is this? Like, this is MS-DOS, like Lotus Notes. Like, what are y'all really doing? And so it's just the realization of how mediocre, in some cases, the management of the city is, and in some cases, how you know, the level of outright malfeasance that exists. So yeah, on some level, it is mind blowing to keep having these revelations over and over again.
Right. I just want to thank you for your work, man, because like I still got my Flight Blight Baltimore t-shirt, you know what I mean? But I wear it often, you know what I mean? Because, you know, we see blight every day, you know, and, you know, in the community that I put my new current juice bar in, the one thing I met with the community association over there this weekend, and they were talking about how they're doing like air quality and creating tree canopies. And, you know, I didn't really realize how much, like, I understand environment definitely changes how people think, but I didn't realize how the nuances and stages and things that you have to do in order to even get momentum going for change. You know what I mean? It's a lot of steps to get the ball rolling. And so I just wanted to commend you on that, to be honest with you. Like, I love what you're doing, especially for the west side of Baltimore, you know?
Sweet.
Yes. And look, the website is up, and a lot of great information, a lot of resources that are available. In fact, I reached out to my community association and CC the controller, the president of the association, as well as the city council, and your name came up. So, you know, it's definitely, as far as resources, they provided 3 resources, and they definitely have put up the Fight Blight Be More. So your name came up, and I said, well, we're going to have her on today. So seems like we're going in the right direction. And the reason I reached out to them was because, and we're going to dive right into it, is the tax sale. We do know that there's a deadline for I don't want to say just homeowners, because you just kind of educated me on something, but we're going to talk about that. But for you to pay your delinquent bill, it would have to be by April the 30th.
Correct.
I do know $750 is for now. I do know for owner occupied. And then if you can just break that down and also just let people know, not just that deadline for April 30th, but like what would be the other options beyond that, and like what is the process? Some people unfortunately don't even know that they're on there. I've come across that. I've reached out to someone who did not know. And then it was another incident where, I was talking to someone, and again, they were just under the assumption that either their the credit, the homeowners, the credit,
mortgage.
Yeah, so they thought that they was getting some credit. So again, just not being aware, either something didn't go through the system, or just not being easily accessible to pulling your information. There's a site that is really hard to even navigate through. The only listing I saw was from the Daily Records, and that's just like 90 pages. So a lot to go through to see if I'm on there, if you're on there, what's needed. And just for me, I saw the lack of assistance, and if you could just talk about that, that would be awesome.
Sure. So I'm gonna try to
and I know that's why I was like, it's
thread the needle all the way through, because it is a really cumbersome process. So typically the tax bills come out in June of, a year, right? So let's say June last year, right? The tax bills come out. If you have not paid your tax bill by October, it is technically considered delinquent, even though you have some time until like December, it really starts to be, considered delinquent by the city. Mm-hmm. By February, the city sends out this thing called a final bill and legal notice, which basically says you haven't paid us. And if you don't pay us by April 30th, your debt is going to be sold at the annual tax sale auction.
Hey, yo, what the
So at about the middle of March, typically March 15th, there is a tax sale list that is published. And that list has everyone who has not paid, according to the city's records, who has not paid their tax bill by, I guess, March 1st. That part I'm not 100% sure. But March 15th, typically this list comes out. That's the list that you talked about being in the Daily Record. That list is also reflected on the new auction website, which we'll talk about in more depth. But from that time, from the final bill and legal notice, again, you have till April 30th to pay your tax bill. If you're an owner-occupied unit, meaning the person that is the deeded owner, that means if you go to SDAT and run a search on a property address, the people listed as the owner, if those people live in the house and the house is classified as owner-occupied by the state, right, at the state level, typically that is done using the homestead tax credit, which we'll also talk about as well. That is the vehicle by which they designate who's owner-occupied. If the property is owner-occupied and the person has not paid by April 30th, come May 15th or whatever the day is this year, there's an auction of the unpaid tax debt. If you're owner-occupied, you want to get below $750 by April 30th, because if you get below that threshold, your debt is not sold. So if you owe the city $749 or less, and you live in the property, and the property is designated as owner-occupied by SDAT, you cannot go to tax sale.
Okay.
If the property is not designated as owner-occupied, let's say it's a rental property, right? For example, those properties can go to tax sale for anything less than $250.
Oh,
right?
wow. Okay.
So it's a much lower threshold. So the $750 threshold is aimed at protecting homeowners. But here's the challenge and why it doesn't always protect homeowners. Because many times the person who actually owns the house is not the person that's listed on the deed or listed at SDAT the State Department of Assessment and Taxation as the owner. And the reason why is because oftentimes when a parent or grandparent dies and they die without a will.
Oh yeah, we gotta talk about that later.
Right. Even if they die with a will, if the family doesn't take the house through the probate process, or it's not set up in a way to avoid the probate process, the person, the original owner's name remains on the deed.
Yes.
And so we have a number of properties in Baltimore that are actually owner occupied. The heir is living in the property, been living in the property, been paying the taxes, sometimes even keeping up on the mortgage, keeping the property in good condition, but they're not listed.
Yeah.
So people do not get the benefit of that $750 threshold. So now let's say it's April, we May 1st. You missed the April 30th deadline to get below $750 owner occupied or $250 non-owner occupied. The tax sale happens. It's an auction. It's an electronic auction. And there's a system that you basically can register for and log in. The tax sale purchasers can register for and log into. It's like I said, it's an electronic auction. At that time, if your debt, which is now called a tax certificate or tax lien certificate, if your debt is sold at that auction, right, you now have to pay 12% interest if the property is owner occupied, in addition to the debt, right, or 18% interest in addition to the debt if the property is not owner occupied. Now, remember, this is really important because we have many properties in our community that are in ownership of our families that are improperly deeded or titled or otherwise improperly listed as non-owner occupied. So there's a difference there.
Now, is that because people pass away and they don't properly transfer the ownership?
Right. So we're going to talk about that in depth, but let's get through the rest of the timeline. So in May, the houses, the certificate has sold, right? Say your certificate sold, now you owe this 12 or 18%, depending on how your property is situated. If your property is owner occupied, you have 6 months from the sale to pay the city directly, right? The amount of the lien plus the interest. If after 6 months you have not done that, the tax certificate purchaser can then employ the services of their lawyer, and then you have to pay their lawyer's fees plus these other fees. First. You have to pay them first. Then you have to, once you pay them, they give you a lien release. Then you have to go and pay the city the amount of the original lien. So it's a 2-step redemption process. If you do not pay the city directly, right, between the sale and 6 months after the sale, if you're owner occupied. If you're non-owner occupied, you have 4 months after the sale.
So what is the thing they were talking about? Like, if you get somebody property, you got a year and a half. Like the owner has a year and a half.
I'm getting there.
Nneka.
I gotta relax.
Yeah, it's because I'm trying to draw lines really complicated. So if you're owner occupied and you haven't paid both the lawyer and the fees associated with the lawyer, mind you, many elders get contacted by these lawyers and they think that the lawyer represents them. They do not understand that the lawyer actually represents the certificate purchaser and that they are paying the certificate purchaser's fees. So sometimes people pay the lawyer and think everything gravy, but it's not. So, okay, let's go to you at 6 months. Well, now 6 months has passed. You haven't been able to pay now the lawyer's fees or the lien. After 9 months, the lawyers can file a foreclosure action. This is a tax sale foreclosure. and they are foreclosing on your right to redeem the property, right? Your right to pay them and tell them go about their business, right? If from that time, if you get to court, you still can redeem during the post after the 9 months. You can still redeem after they filed the paperwork. But then there's a hearing. If they go to the hearing, if you have not paid by the hearing, and the judge forecloses your right to redeem, from that date forward, you no longer have a right to pay them. And technically, you don't own the house. But
right.
but you're still the deeded owner to the house. And if they do not file or record a new deed and put their name on it, if they never do, if they walk away, let's say you paid the lawyer and the lawyer's fees and you just didn't pay the rest and you walk away, you know, they can walk away and they're not required to record the deed. They have 3 years. If they don't record the deed within 3 years, then basically all of the debt, all of the taxes and water bill and anything else that accrued during that period all falls back on the original owner.
Yo, what the?
Wow.
This shit is sick.
It is beyond sick.
Yo, that shit is sick.
And they're not required to redeed the property. What sometimes happens is they just will auction the property. And when that happens, let's say you owed $1,000 originally for tax, but your house is worth $40,000.
Mm-hmm.
They get the entire, and somebody buys it at auction for $40,000. They get the entire $40,000. All they have invested is the cost of the lawyer and what they paid for your. So all your equity, all the equity that the family had in the property is lost, and the lawyer and the certificate purchaser can be the same person, and they don't have to disclose that.
And can they? So a person buys a tax lien, or they get a tax lien or whatever, right? A tax lien property. So do they automatically get that equity, or they're paying? Because I want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
No, so they don't. Okay. So once they can only access the equity once there has been a foreclosure on the right to redeem. So once the judge says you can no longer redeem, they can either do one or two things. They could immediately sell, they could auction the property or sell the property, and then they're going to get the equity in it, whatever equity there was. Or they can deed the property to themselves and then go and pull the equity out, through the traditional lending methods.
So for those folks that are a little green to the language that you're using, what does redeem mean? Like, what does that actually mean? Like, what do you mean?
Redeem means foreclosing the right to redeem means they take away your right. You no longer have the right to pay the debt.
Okay.
So if they stop your right to pay the debt, and effectively that stops your right to ownership. That's not
like after this certain amount of time, you cannot. I don't care what you try to do. We gave you this grace period. You can't go beyond this.
It is actually at the point that you go to court, and the court gives the certificate purchaser the foreclosure. So it's just like in a regular mortgage foreclosure. Mm-hmm. You have basically up until the day that foreclosure judgment happens to pay whatever they deem the debt to be. But after that foreclosure, after that judgment, you effectively are no longer the owner. Here's the catch with tax sale foreclosure. With a regular foreclosure, once that judgment happens, you can walk away. They have to take ownership of the property, and you can go ahead about your business. In tax sale foreclosure, you're still, if they don't take ownership of the property, if they don't deed the property to themselves or sell the property to someone else who deeds the property to themselves, after 3 years, all of the debt that has been acquired in the 3 years converts to the original owner. And they also have the option after the foreclosure of right to redemption to either sell the house back to you or to rent the house to you.
Damn, so they can sell you the house back to you with all the fees that you paid or whatever. So for example, I mean, I'm not looking to do one, but I'm just saying, if I was to buy a tax lien, right? Mm-hmm. So I would be able to buy a tax lien for, like, say the person owed $750. We just gonna throw $750 out there.
751. Go ahead.
Let's say 753. You know what I mean? Like I said, 753. I paid $753. It go through the processes, right? Mm-hmm. All the 6 months, the 3 months, and all that, right? Mm-hmm. So you mean to tell me I can actually take somebody home I can own a home for $700 and something?
Effectively, yes.
Wow, that is so.
If you follow the process through, and if they're not able to redeem, and so this is what's an important note. So $1,000 tax bill today, unpaid, by this time next year, is $3,300. That is when you add the interest and the attorney's fees and all the other fees, the lien certificate fee, to this fee, to that fee. It makes it triple. So
it's crazy. You're setting people up for failure. If I couldn't pay $1,000, how the fuck I'm gonna pay $3,000?
Brother Nance.
I'm just saying, like, yo, that's bullshit. To be honest with you, like, I mean, now that I understand the whole breakdown of it, man, you was talking earlier about the situation before we got the expert on here breaking the whole science down. Like, yo, that is like damn near like predatory lending when you got somebody getting cars with like 36% interest rate.
And I want you all to know
this is a family-friendly show.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying not to say
Brother Nance.
I was about to say
every week.
I apologize, y'all. I'm passionate about this.
I want to also note that many of these tax certificate purchasers, these are hedge funds. Many of them are hedge fund investors. So I want you to think about where else in Wall Street, where else in the investment world are you guaranteed a 12 to 18% return on your investment? And it is noted that the tax sale investors target owner-occupied units because those folks are more likely to do whatever is necessary, right, to defer maintenance, to not on the house, to not take their, not get their meds, to not pay other bills in order to redeem the property. So they don't go after vacants. They don't go after properties that they could get and rehab and sell. Very rare. There are few real estate developers who do that. Very few. But most of the investors in tax sale are in it for the 12 to 18% because they know there's nowhere else in investment where you get a guaranteed return like that, except all from the backs of Black people.
Poor people.
Mostly elderly, disabled, and low-income homeowners. They know that. And so it's just key to know when you hear people say that tax sale is predatory, these are the reasons why. The interest, the two-stage redemption process, right? The fact that you have to pay the lawyer, the fact that you have to pay the lawyer first, the fact that it's known that they target owner-occupied units, and because if we do a good look, as we're doing a good look at the tax assessments that create your tax bill in neighborhoods where the sales value is in the lowest 10% in Baltimore, those properties had their homes assessed for the purpose of property taxes at 168% of their sales value.
What?
I'm gonna say it again.
Hey, yo, hold up, yo. Hold up, yo.
I'm gonna say it again
one more time, yo, because I need to make sure I heard exactly what you just said.
I'm gonna run it back. in the Center for Municipal Finance, because I want you all to be able to go and look. Don't depend on me, right? The Center for Municipal Finance did a study, and I can provide you all the link, that properties in Baltimore with the lowest 10% of sales values, right? Of all the properties in Baltimore, the lowest 10% have their property values assessed for the purposes of taxes at 168% of the market value.
Yo,
now, conversely, it gets worse. Properties at the top 10% of sales value, your most expensive properties, have their property taxes assessed at 64%.
Ho.
So
you lying.
No, I'm not. I'm not doing it. So the lowest properties with the lowest values effectively pay 2.5 times their market value of their property in property taxes. So disproportionate, and we know the top 10% of properties are in the white L.
Yes.
Almost exclusively.
Yes.
The lowest 10% are almost exclusively in the black butterfly. Therefore, Black people are disproportionately paying their property taxes are disproportionate to the market value of their properties. Now, I'm gonna draw the line a little bit more. I know it's a whole lot, y'all, but we gotta pull a thread through it.
Yes, I got no question.
Consider that property taxes are part of the ways that schools are funded, and are part of the way that all municipal services are funded.
Yeah.
Now, who has the poorest schools and gets the worst municipal services but the black butterfly? So we are effectively paying disproportionate amounts of our income. A disproportionate amount of property taxes out of our income to receive poor school,
poor service,
poor municipal services, while at the same time, these same elders, these same disabled folks, these same low-income homeowners are the ones with adopt-a-lot licenses, right? Out here doing community cleanups. And all of this, they're taking care of municipal responsibilities, while paying disproportionate amounts of taxes, while folks in the white L is over there chilling.
Right. Percent, they pay 130. That though, yo, the more I dig into how they set this structure up, yo, this is some sick. Like if we study the art of war, it's sick, but it's very. They did a good job.
So I want to address a comment that I saw in the thread.
Yeah, I want you to, please. I was about to say.
So several things. The power to cancel the tax sale, right, lies with the mayor and the director of finance, Henry Raymond. We have called on them several times to do the following 4 things. 1, to cancel the sale this year outright.
Period.
2, to work with us to develop an equitable collection system installed. And that's everything from installment payment plans to making sure that people are getting the appropriate tax credits, because that's a whole nother, we'll get into that. 3, to ramp up the use of in-rem foreclosure on vacant and abandoned properties so that developers like myself and Bree Jones and Brother Nats and Shirley Halstead at Black Women Bill and the brothers over there at Kioba and Terrence at Terraloft Consultant can get these properties and get them back into use so it can help boost the tax base. Before, to actually call for a specific disparity study on what I just talked about in terms of the tax assessments, because what we know is Baltimore is the only jurisdiction that the state Department of Assessment of Tax and Taxation uses a gross income calculation in order to calculate property taxes in particular neighborhoods. And that is neighborhoods with where 51% or more of the properties are classed as rentals. All the properties in that neighborhood subset have their taxes assessed as if they were rentals. And we know that rents rise higher in blighted neighborhoods and in black neighborhoods than do market values. There's that. So I wanted to address that piece. And I also want to address, somebody mentioned what is collected in tax revenue. So in the 2020 tax sale, there were about $15.5 million worth of tax certificates sold. Of those, 5 million were classified as owner occupied. If Baltimore is so desperate that it needs $5 million off of the backs of its most vulnerable homeowners, I'm going to say that Baltimore needs to file bankruptcy.
Facts.
And specifically in this year, 2021, where we're about to get $670 million in federal COVID aid and another $100 million in state COVID aid, there is no reason that the city needs the $3.9 million in tax certificates being offered for owner-occupied properties this year. We don't need it. The Fed is sending money. The state is sending money. Leave Big Mama's house. All
Facts.
Alone, because 85% of pro bono resource centers tax sale clients were elderly Black women.
Yeah,
I want y'all to understand. This is
big for the people that hear you in the nosebleeds.
85% of pro bono resource centers tax sale clients in this season are elderly Black women. These are our grandmothers, our mothers, our aunts, our sisters. It has to stop. There's absolutely no reason. I had a client in my car the other day because we were settling her debt, and she was filling out her money orders, and she literally was shaking because she had some of her money. She had paid. She actually wasn't in this year's sale. She was in last year's sale. She had some of her money. She had paid the lawyer. She needed a couple coins to close the gap so she could redeem completely. She is sitting in the car, and I was like, "It's okay." She was like, "I didn't fill these out because I wanted to make sure that it was real, that this regular money was real." She was shaking. I was like, "Sis, I got you." There is no reason to have this sale unless your intent is to do economic violence against Black people, specifically elderly, disabled, and low-income homeowners.
Facts.
So Baltimore does not need that money that bad. And so we're gonna get to it's so much. After the tax sale, the day after the tax sale every year, there's an assignment sale. So there's a separate sale where any certificates that were not sold can be assigned to a particular buyer who might be interested in it. Now, this is how some of the developers who are trying to that are trying to rehab get some of the tax certificate tax certificates on those vacant properties that we talked about. But then in October of every year, there's a bulk tax sale. So the remainder of all the unsold certificates are bundled together and offered to investors in the October tax sale. Last year, there were $55.5 million worth of worth of liens offered in the bulk sale, right? So I asked the city, I said, well, when was the last successful bulk sale? Nobody can remember when the last successful bulk sale was. So you had $55 million worth of debt that the city is keeping on its balance sheets, on its books as receivables, right? To make the balance sheet look good so that it can maintain its AAA bond rating, so it can continue to get bonds, right? in order to do infrastructure projects, in order to do development projects like Port Covington and things of that nature, none of which, or I won't say none of which, 90% of which do not directly happen inside of the Black Butterfly, nor does it highly impact Black people. So the city is playing a shell game with these receivables, right? They keeping dead receivables, money they know they never going to collect, on the books to maintain the bond rating.
So how does the new market tax credit and the opportunity zones play in this whole thing that you're speaking about?
Well, I mean,
is that two totally different things?
The tax credits are different in that those are vehicles that the developers use in order to close the gap. There's this thing called the appraisal gap, which is the difference between what it takes to rehab a property and what the market for the property was for. It's really what the banks will lend.
Right.
And so actually Bree Jones from Parity Homes just worked with Senator Antonio Hayes to do some legislation surrounding the appraisal gap. It's an appraisal gap tax credit that will help folks, developers close that gap. So the legislation passed, but now they have to go back next year in session and get the funding vehicle to fund the credit so that people can apply for it and get the funding. That happens next year. Wow. And so there isn't a direct connection that I can see between the tax sale and these tax credits. But it's just.
And I guess the reason why I said it, because I'm looking at like the development they're about to be doing on North Avenue, development they did in Greenmount. You know what I mean? I'm just looking at but there's no Black developers involved in that development process. So that's why I was like, how do we get access to those new market tax credit and those opportunity zones? Because like I was telling Angie earlier, I would, if I was to buy a tax sale property, I wouldn't be buying it to take somebody home. I would be buying it so someone wouldn't lose their home, but I would want to figure out, at the hand, what you said, as far as all the fees and all that, that's kind of crazy. I wouldn't even get my money back if I invested. If you couldn't pay $750, you can't pay $2,000. You know what I mean? So it's
sometimes people do pay. Sometimes people, they, like I said, they defer maintenance on the home. They don't. Right. They don't get their meds. They, they borrow from,
Especially if the home was handed down and you have history. When you were talking, one day we can talk offline about my family, but it was definitely something that was illegal. Went to court and everything. In fact, it's still an open case. But it's just so hard to see how they're just taking homes like that. One quick question I have for you that someone had asked me earlier, and I just want to make sure that I wasn't missing anything. But what kind of debt could be could make you go onto this tax sale? I know your property taxes, your any citations, water bill, of course. Yes.
So this is how it works. If obviously unpaid property taxes. Mm-hmm. If you have a unpaid housing violation high grass and weeds, or if you did some unpermitted work in your house and they found out about it and cited you, if you had a trash can citation, any of those types of things, if you have debts and they add up to $750 or more, if you're owner occupied, you can go to tax sale. Now, the trick with water bills, you used to be able to go for water bills outright.
Yes.
Now you can't go for water bills alone. But let's be clear: if you have a water bill and you have a
the citation or
if you have a special benefits district surcharge tax unpaid. Those two things can be paid together and put you on the tax bill, tax sale list. You just can't go for water bills alone. You can go for water bill in combination with other debts, but
it's not just straight water bill. So it's not just straight water bill. So if I had a $753 water bill, that wouldn't qualify.
that wouldn't qualify. But if you had a $750 water bill and you had a $50 trash can citation unpaid, you can go.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And what's funny about the water. Go ahead, Angie. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, here's another thing I wanted to say. You kind of mentioned it on your page, I think. You may have mentioned it here. I got a cloudy head. But I wanted to know, like, what can be done if there was an error in the system? I mean, if this it's Friday, right? But let's say someone's on there by error. Is there something that can help that family through this process? And I say that because there was something that happened to someone I knew, and they had paid their bill and actually had to find the paperwork. I mean, they weren't on tax sale, but they still had this, hey, pay your citation. But things happen in these systems, and it could be wrong. Like, what is your advice, or what can be done? It's just such a small window, and it's scary to know that there could be some errors in this.
Yeah. So
because we've seen four kinds of errors really heavily this season.
Wow.
One is the misapplied payments.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the zip codes on addresses were wrong. We've seen that were misclassified. Specifically, we had somebody who lived in the house, but their house was classified as a commercial dwelling, which changed your taxes. And then we've also had people who had unapplied tax credits. And so if you are in one of those situations, my suggestion at this point is to contact either the Pro Bono Resource Center. Pro Bono Resource
Center. Down, Angie, Pro Bono Resource Center.
Yeah, I actually have a flyer, so I'll put that in there.
Yeah, Maryland Volunteer Lawyer Service or legal aid, and explain what's going on. The other option is to send an email to whoever your city council person is, detailing what the issue is. And you can absolutely CC me. My email address is Nneka, Nneka, @fightblightbemore.com. And you can say to them, like, this is the error. We're on the tax sale list. Friday is coming. Get us a ball. This is your job. Get us a ball. Get us a ball here. Hopefully they will respond, because some of these city council persons is not.
I mean, I would hope that,
Let me say this real quick. Special shout out to my girl, Councilwoman Odette Ramos. She has been out knocking on doors for her constituents. So not to say it's just her, but she has definitely given me very much hope of what's our leadership. It could be rare, but she's definitely out there doing over and beyond to actually go door to door with those that are in her actual district. And as I stated, it's very hard, because a person could just be going through mental stress. I mean, we're in a pandemic.
Right.
We're still in a pandemic.
That's what I was saying. Like, I agree with my sister Nneka. Like, this is one of those times they're making exceptions for everything else. Like, they passing kids and they doing all this other exceptions for the pandemic, but you can't do an exception for someone home that they live in. Like, that, to me, that is like that right there is a disservice. You know what I mean? And again, if it can only be stopped by our current mayor and our current finance person, you know what I mean? And me having a relationship, not with the finance person, but understanding how my bro think, I would hope that someone within that realm would be like, hold up, bro, we are in a pandemic, you know what I mean? And, I have brothers and sisters that are landlords, and they haven't received no money during the pandemic because people just can't pay their rent. You know what I mean? So it's like, although, the eviction court and all that stuff coming back up, is like, how do we, I guess my question is, how can we, because, Nneka, you know me, I'm all about solutions. You know what I'm saying? Like, we know the problems. Like, what is the solution that we can do to kind of like, besides our mayor veto and saying, look, we're not doing this year, You know what I mean? If I got to make a phone call, I will. You know what I mean? Like, just because, you know what I mean? Because I didn't even know it was that deep until we had this conversation. Like, I thought it was like, because what my understanding was like, you buy somebody's house on a tax sale, they got a year and a half. They didn't get into the details that they got a year and a half to get it back before you can do anything with it. You know what I mean? I was like, well, all right, that's cool. You know, you get somebody a year and a half to pay the money. But I didn't know that it goes from 1,000 to like 3,000. Like, that is that right there is just, and for you to share the information of 60% and 130%, like, that is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
How did that even get passed? Like, how did that law even, like, how?
No, well, we
have to remember that the property tax code, many of these laws have been in place since slavery times.
Yes.
That's what I said. Yeah.
When I say slavery times, I mean chattel enslavement times, not the new Jim Crow times, right? So many of these things have been on the books for years. Many of these things were put on the books in order to make it easy to erode Black people's property rights, period. Mm-hmm. And so they continue to be on the books because, one, it advantages the investors' pockets, but two, it continues to feed the narrative that our communities are a mess because we're not doing something that we're supposed to be doing. And for as much as we have challenges and things that we need to address within ourselves and within our families,
I agree.
The conditions that we find ourselves in are the direct result of racist and violent economic policy.
Facts.
And we could draw a line from 1825 in the Maryland Occupational Acts that said that Black people could not, free or enslaved, could not own a cart or dray in the city. And why today the Arabs are still underfunded, when in fact, if the city had invested any money into them substantially, the first food delivery services, Grubhub and all of that would have come out of Baltimore and would have come out of a collective and cooperative economic model. But that is not what they choose to do. Instead, they choose to do things and keep them going, like ground rent and tax sale and condemnation and all of these things that erode our ability to have healthy and safe communities, while BPD has a quarter of the $3 billion budget, $500 million, and can't clear 30% of the murders in a city where you claiming the people not smart. So we not smart, but we smart enough to commit murders in ways to get away with it. It doesn't even make sense, but these are the things. You'll hear people say, oh, people just need to pay their property taxes. But what they're not saying is, these are elders. These are people who have a property tax credit that was unapplied.
Yeah.
People who were in we had a client who was in the hospital and literally forgot to file their annual property tax credit application. And so they had some of the money, they had their regular amount of money, but they didn't have the additional money from not having the tax credit. And when you get the homeowner's tax credit, the city loses nothing because the state pays the city the difference. So why isn't the city making sure all eligible homeowners have the homeowner's tax credit?
And so my point earlier was that how it's just complicated, the entire system. You know, even when I had it, like, I'm still trying to digest the full list. And here's a question for you. So if someone, and we're getting close to time, but hopefully I'm going to answer another question or two. But if someone's on there, from the full list that was on the daily records, right? They're on there, they paid it by the April 30th. Does the system have it updated where they can't go through the auction? So I mean, even though that information is still on this list, like, I just don't even like that. The name, the cost, everything is there.
So this is why it's important. Like, if you're paying property taxes at this point, it is you should be paying using certified funds, either certified check or a money order. You should be putting it down to the Able Woman Building, making sure that you have. I would take a picture of the envelope, fill out the envelope completely, take a picture of the envelope, take a picture of the check, and I would send those to your city council person and say, hey, I paid this at such and so time on such and so date, prior to April 30th. Please verify that this money has been received and properly applied to the account. This is the reason why I think it takes 2 weeks from the end of from the 30th to typically May 15th or about to have the sale, because they want to quote unquote ensure that they have pulled everyone who is paid. But again, mistakes happen. It's really, really important that we be on top of them, because having looked, being able to see a screenshot of Baltimore City's systems, it's not a good look. They literally are using the computer systems that I'm sure they bought when
I was gonna say it's so out of date. Yes.
When Schaefer was there. No lie. It looked it's COBOL. As a systems engineer by trade, I know that's COBOL. That's like 1985, and so we have infrastructure issues. We have greed issues where people in the Bureau of Revenue Collections who only concern is money, making sure the city get their little $15 million in tax sale, and they don't care what the cost, and they don't care what the cost is, even though the cost of homelessness services for one family outweighs what it would cost the city to just forgive the debt, or to use another method that's not predatory to collect the debt. And we have given the mayor's office a whole plan about how this can be done in a way that is equitable and that does not cause the disproportionate
what they doing with all my red lights? What they doing with all my speeding ticket money? Like, what the fuck they doing with all my tickets and shit? Like, what are they doing with all my?
All I know is
Mondawmin and all that.
I don't know, but all I know is they have a plan in hand written by advocates about how to collect this money in ways that do not
displace,
that are harm reduced. Right, because this is economic. I have to keep saying it. This is economic violence, and the violence that we see in our streets, the interpersonal violence, is the direct result of these policies, these types of policies that the city, state, and federal government have been doing to Black people for 500 years. And we got to be clear about that, and at the same time, we have to take responsibility within our families to make sure, check on Big Mama, check on Pop, check on all the homeowners. If you are a renter, try to work with. There's a tax credit for renters. Try to work with your your landlord to get that tax credit. Like housing providers, I don't like to use the word landlord. Your small housing providers, we have to figure out a way to help them too, because somebody mentioned they haven't been getting rent. How are you supposed to pay their property taxes if they haven't been getting rent? These are real issues.
Real issues,
yeah.
Well, Nneka, listen, it's getting close. We could probably have you on forever. I love it. I love the again, I think this came off of a flyer or maybe just something you posted, but you have on there securing the family home. I think it's very important when we talk about community, we talk about, being a village, that we do all that we can to try to, not displace families. There are various reasons why people aren't able to pay, and it's really good to have a breakdown that is not just a simple, hey, I got to $750, but now that price has tripled, and a lot of people don't understand all these fines and lawyer fees and everything else that makes it hard to kind of, dig out of that. So if I, like you said, couldn't pay $750, how am I going to pay $2,000 or something? So it's very important to be educated. To also know, we have placed a link in the comments as far as how, to see, the process of even if your address is listed and how you can get off. I think I have it correctly. I think it is. Just bear with me because I'm going to still have you say it. But fightblightbemore.com, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I was about to say, I don't know the website offhand. So if there's a lot of great information on her website, please make sure that thank you. Please make sure that you go on there, you get all the resources that are on there. I'm going to kind of let, her
listen
about it. I want you to wait a minute, one second. So I just want to say, please, we want to support organizations that are doing some impactful things in our community. So thank you, Nneka, for all that you're doing to try to make sure that residents are aware and receive the resources. As I stated, I reached out on just a whole nother issue and your name was dropped. So thank you for all that you're doing. If there's anything that we can do, Ready on Fire or Restoring a Village, that can help within these last few days, or I don't know, like something we can do to get through to the mayor and the director of finance, please let us know how we can support you. And again, it's very, I'm gonna get him. We have a whole entire notebook of notes, a lot of things that I did not know, and that's kind of why I was a little quiet, because I like to learn these things, because you want to make sure that we pass them along, right? And that people know. And sometimes it's just a matter of, just as I stated, the system is very complicated. And I think I'm very, savvy with it, but it's so complicated that it's not just a simple, oh, it's just right there. Or, hey, this is how you do it. The system is built the way it's supposed to be. And that's to complicate things and to displace you, right? So again, thank you, Nneka, for coming on and being our special guest. How would someone be able to contact you and or support your organization? And if you can just drop, your platforms or any websites that you have.
Sure. So you can check us out on fightblightbemore.com. That is our website. As of May 1st, you can also go to the SOSfund.com. That is the Stop Oppressive Seizures Fund.
Yes, Shorty.
That is the group that is running the tax sale bailout. If just in general, for the last probably 3 months, most of what our work has been on Fight Blight Be More has been focused around the tax sale. So you can go to our Facebook page, which is Fight Blight Be More, or our Twitter, which is Fight Blight Be More with no E, or on Instagram, we're Project Blight to Bright. There's plenty of information about tax sale, things we have been, kind of talking about. In the meantime, if you know Mayor Scott, if you got his phone number, if you got his email address, if you got his ear or his heart, call him, contact him, and tell him, look, bruh, this gotta stop.
I'm gonna call you after we get off the phone. I'm gonna call you
and tell them cancel it, because we literally had clients tell us they had not slept since February, since they got that final bill illegal. Mm-hmm. We had elders. I couldn't make the client phone calls. Mm-hmm. Because we had elders crying on the phone when they got the phone call. Mm-hmm. Once they figured out we wasn't a scam. Once they G-checked us to make sure.
Yes.
Right?
That's the Baltimore way. They both the G-check.
Yeah, they G-check. They crying because they can't believe that this is happening for them. And you cannot have equity. Mayor Scott, listen, you cannot have equity without repair.
Facts.
The first stage to repair is canceling this sale and then working with us to instantiate the program, the installment payment program, and other things that the policy paper we submitted to you in February details, right? Mm-hmm. And then I got a whole nother platform about, Baltimore neighborhood reparations and the social equity bond. But get with me. Stop playing in my face.
Stop playing, yo. Stop following her along. Stop liking her shit and support what she doing. Stop liking her stuff. Stop stalking her page. The work needs funding. You know what I mean? The work needs funding. Like, straight up. You know what I mean? Because I'm just keeping it real. Like, you know what I mean? A lot of times, like, the people that's doing the real work for real social change, we don't support them. You know what I mean? Like, we like what they do. I don't care about you liking what I do. Support what I do. And we need economics to support what people are doing on the ground. You know what I mean? So,
otherwise, it's civic sharecropping. Mm-hmm. And that's
the sister dropping bombs. So that y'all might have to get y'all dictionaries out. You know what I mean? When we get on the Village Radio, we be having high-powered, individuals on here that are real change makers and movers and shakers in this town and not talkers. We got a lot of talkers in this town. Support the doers. Facts.
All I'm saying is, and check on your peoples. If you can't do nothing else in the next between now and Friday, if you got a couple dollars in your pocket, call and check on your people.
And you basically said it just has to be under the threshold. So it doesn't have to be.
I got a stack for anybody.
If their name is on the deed, if their name is on the deed, they have to be under $750.
Okay. So it's not having to be paid all out.
Right. If their name is not on the deed, it has to be paid. It has to be paid below $250.
Okay.
So hey, just contact your people, check on them, pay it, go down Able Woman, send the council person an email asking them to verify. Those are the things that we can do. And, going forward, we can talk about, maybe I can come back on and do a presentation on how to save the family house. And we can talk about those.
This is part one. This is part one.
Now, my recommendation is to please do not mail it at this moment.
No, do not
mail anything.
Do not mail. Do not mail. Do not use the online system. Go to whatever payments you're gonna make. Go to the Able Woman building down next to City Hall. There's a drop box. There'll be a security guard sitting there. Fill out the envelope. Put your cashier's check or money order in there. Make sure you take pictures of it. And I ask the security guard what their name is, and I know the name, that person's name and the date and time. Then you can send the city council person an email asking for verification. That is my suggestion, because we can't afford no mix-ups.
Right.
I just want to say, man, support Flight Blight. Be more. You know what I mean? I stand behind the sister work. You know what I'm saying? Like. And I honestly, I was telling Angie earlier, I want to figure a way that I can kind of help somebody, but I do want my money back. I ain't gonna lie. Like, I do want my money back. Like, if I pay for your joint by the 30th, I got a stack for anybody. I got $1,000 to put up. You know what I mean? So if somebody got $800, I just need my $800 back in the respectful time. You know what I mean? Like, I ain't gonna tax you on the lawyers and none of that. But I'm saying, I'm about solution, Nneka. Like, I ain't. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really know everything, but I like to try to, if I can, I try to come in and add some type of light, because, my grandmother passed last year, you know what I'm saying? And I watched how the transfer of a home that should have been paid off, but the city did like some water heater replacements, furnaces, and then you don't own your home for a couple years, and now you got to go through. Now we're out that phase now, and it's back in the family's custody. But, I agree with you. We do need to educate that, because one thing that happens in the Black community, we don't transfer wealth when people pass away. We transfer debt. You know what I'm saying? And that has to change with knowledge. You understand what I mean? So I just want to thank you, sister, for all the work that you do. You know what I mean? I'm a fan, but I love you. You know what I'm saying? And I think that, you do amazing work. And I just want to make sure that that you got brothers and sisters out here that support your work. You know what I mean? And it's time for us to support your work financially and not just support your work online. Simple as that. You know what I mean? So I'll be the first donor if I have to set the ball rolling for all the other people that's holding money and doing the right thing. Let's save our elders' home, because half of the elders' homes we saving are the ones that raised us. So how we gonna leave our elders? We're the only country that don't take care of our elders. Period.
You said so again, Nneka, thank you so much for being our special and phenomenal guest. You're more than welcome to come back anytime. If you have any kind of workshops, I'm seeing more to this. I think, like Brother Nan said, we need to educate before all of this.
We need to get my sister back to get us in the preventative stages and have some workshops on our Restore the Village radio, so we can really restore the village. You know what I mean?
Right. So Nneka, thank you again for being our guest. This is actually the end of our show. We kind of went over, and I want to thank our. I said phenomenal for you. So I got to get a great word. Our amazing producer, thank you so much, DJ Diamond K.
He only on time because we virtual.
You know what I love? I love that, we have our own. We can talk about whatever we want. It's nothing censored. So thank you so much, DJ Diamond K, for allowing Radio on Fire to be, that type of broadcast that we can talk about any and everything. Please let us know how we can be of assistance to anyone. If it's a topic that you want to talk about, Radio on Fire is the place to be. And we're here through the Restoring the Village, doing everything we can to empower our community. If you want to support Radio on Fire, I'm going to say it. I mean, just because I really appreciate.
2 minutes. Hold on one second.
I'm going to. You know what? So we're gonna have like a class for him. Thank you.
I love him, but that one right there, woo.
Girl, I love him too. But my goodness.
he be doing a lot.
So
you were going somewhere really. You were going somewhere really important. Black media.
I'm trying to get the
black media is imperative. All the things that you're talking about. So many other things. Yeah.
That's the thing. We got a conversation about how to dismantle patriarchy, because part of the problem is the brothers still, sometimes they be loving us, but sometimes they be trying to control us too.
Yes. I'm trying to get the kudos and all that.
Kudo on.
I don't even know now. You done took my mojo.
Project won't cost me.
First of all,
Mute him.
Okay, God. I tried to give him another shot.
So again, Black media, we want to make sure that, this is a great platform that you can come to. Is uncensored. We talk about any and everything. And this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be empowering one another. If you want to support Radio on Fire, there's a Cash App. And I think he might put it up. Oh, it was up on the screen. So the Cash App is DJ Diamond K. Please make sure that we support this amazing my amazing brother. Look at him, he is crazy. So again, I really truly missed everyone. We'll be back next week with another great guest, and just to continue to talk about things that are going on in our community. And again, Nneka, we're going to talk some more, because I have some things going in my head that I believe that we should connect, with. So yeah. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Brother Nansen, I appreciate you.
He looked like he got something to say so bad.
I know, go ahead. Now you said it, he's like, I'm not saying.
No. I mean, here's the thing that I noticed, my observations.
Go.
She took it real easy on y'all. When y'all pushed back or asked her quite, like, if it was me, she would have just been, rah, rah, rah. But she was real chill. But she Nneka, I still got to practice that. Nneka has some.
Oh, I asked you, look here. Don't get it twisted. I answered that. Go ahead.
Good.
Come on.
She has a lot of great information. She knows her stuff, and she's been in the trenches. And despite the fact that her and I have it out a lot, I'm really, really proud of her, and she's just doing amazing work. If I could have gone back in the 90s and known the work she would have doing now, I wouldn't have believed it. But now, it's official. She's official.
Thanks.
All right, you're official now.
She's official. She's been official.
So again, you're always welcome to come back on, and we're so appreciative of the fight that you put up. I know it's not easy all the time, but keep fighting that good fight, sis. So, and I'm glad we have connected. Like, I don't even remember how we connected, but it was on some community stuff. So, thank you so much for all that you're doing. All right, thank you everybody for tuning in. Anything else, Diamond K, before we go?
So we'll be back next week, right?
Yes, we'll be back. Hey, we're back.
Okay.
All right, everyone. See y'all next Monday, 7 p.m.
Good night.
Restoring the Village Project.